One of the most important factors that determines whether or not you get callbacks from the top tech companies is what other companies are on your resume. How recognizable are the companies on your resume already will determine whether or not the recruiter actually calls you back for that next PM role. My name is Alex. I was a group PM at Google for 4 years. Now I help PMs make it into the $1 million club and above. The whole purpose of this channel is to figure out how exactly we can get you to make $1 million as a product manager in tech. Yes, this is possible. 80% of you might churn right now because you're not interested in making $1 million. You don't think it's possible, or you'd rather just watch Shreyas or perhaps Lenny talk about the philosophy of product management rather than making $1 million yourself. That's totally fine, but for the folks that do want to make a bunch of money in product management and tech while it's still possible, let's talk about one of the most important factors, which is how recognizable and well-known are the companies on your resume. We're going to go through the top 100 biggest public companies in the US, the Fortune 100, and I'm going to unpack for you exactly how much you're going to open the doors with your company names. Let's start from the bottom, number 100. Here we are. We have Best Buy. Best Buy, a humongous monster of a company with $43 billion of revenue. I have no idea how they made it on this list. How do they survive and thrive in the Amazon, post-Amazon world? No idea. But I'll tell you one thing. Best Buy does not win you a lot of points with modern tech recruiters, even though chances are you probably had significant impact. I mean, you're talking $43 billion in revenue. Those are some big, big numbers. So probably if you're a Best Buy PM, you've got a lot of impact hiding there. If you couple your name of Best Buy, by itself, it might not do much, but coupled with significant impact, if you can get that revenue number represented or the users that you served or the costs or some other operational efficiencies, if you can get there into the impact and you match the relevancy, that name is going to help you out and help you get a callback. Moving on, Dow Chemical Company, a monster with 44 billion that nobody knows about in the tech space. So this will get you absolutely nothing. Even though I'm sure it's the biggest chemical company, I'm sure it's some sort of a conglomerate. I don't know anything about it. You can give me hate in the comments, but this is not going to get you anything with modern tech recruiters. Same deal for Bristol Myers. Obviously a big pharmaceutical company. If you're going into the health space and the pharmaceutical space, then of course that's going to be recognized. Otherwise, it will be ignored by most top tech recruiters. CHS, same deal. Absolutely nothing going on from a tech perspective. I'm sure an extremely important business. In fact, you can see that this is the number of people that are working for these companies. We're talking 200,000 people that cover these four, but not a lot of recognizability between them. TIAA, Teachers Insurance. I mean, this is phenomenal. This is a $45 billion company with revenue with 16,000 people, absolutely no recognizability. Coca-Cola, on the other hand, will get recognized because obviously it's one of the biggest brands in the world. So you're going to get a little bit of credit just for that name. So if you put X Coca-Cola or Coca-Cola in your summary, you're going to get immediate bump. Okay, what is this? Maybe there's something here, but you're going to have to back that up with impact. You're going to have to back that up with relevance, experience, a bunch of other stuff. The name by itself might get you, a few seconds of extra scroll time, but does not seal any doors for you. AIG, unless you're in the insurance space, insure tech and startup, or, well, maybe a few of the bigger tech companies like Uber or companies that could have an overlap with this business, you're probably not going to open any doors with this either. World Connect, World Fuel Services, we're talking about energy business, another 47 billion monster, absolutely zero recognizability. Same thing for the All-American Pipeline. Again, petroleum, obviously they make money hands over fist, but unless you're going for a specific niche oil or gas or energy business, it won't mean anything to the tech recruiter. Now we get into an interesting territory, Capital One. So Capital One has always been known to be an innovative old world financial services company. They were first to innovate in a number of fronts and also in the tech space. So it is well known, and it is one of the vehicles through which you can get into a bigger tech company. We've got plenty of PCA members who came from a Capital One background who've made this switch into big tech. And also you can think of it as an in-between. So for instance, if you are working as a product manager on a startup, or you're working as a product manager in some other companies that are not recognizable at all, you can use Capital One as a stepping stone. Because one of the things we're trying to do with this channel is tell you exactly what it takes to ensure that you get into the $1 million product management club, actually what it takes. And one of the first things and the most important things is availability of opportunities, which means opened doors, the opportunity to actually speak to recruiters, speak to hiring managers. And you're not going to get a chance to do that irrespective of how good your resume is unless you've got these badges of honor of today in 2025 and beyond, this is the way that you actually get callbacks. You need to earn your stripes, so to speak. You need to pick up these companies like your medals or something like that, because that's the reality of today. That's going to open up the most doors for you. And we're going to see how crazy this gets as we get to the top of this list. The reasons why I'm walking you through this is to understand of where you are now, where you need to be. You might need to take a couple of jumps in order to make it into the biggest tech companies, which is where we actually unlock the $1 million compensation and above. I've helped multiple people inside PCA, other product managers, crack the $1 million, the 7-figure mark as a product manager. So we certainly know that it can be done. So Capital One, again, out of all of these, by far the most recognizable and in a meaningful way. You can actually use it to get your foot in the door. Next, enterprise products, again, more energy, doesn't mean anything. Oracle, very recognizable, doesn't actually get you much. Like, it's technically a big tech company, 164,000 employees, but you're not going to get recruiters excited about hiring an Oracle PM. Again, specific niches, yes, by itself, just as a name, ex-Oracle, it doesn't win you the callback by itself. Nike, same club as Coca-Cola. Obviously, huge revenue, profitable, huge number of employees, but realistically, if you're a product manager, sure, you're doing things around tech, but you're going to have to back it up with impact, just like we're talking about the Best Buy case. Liberty Mutual, another insurance play, same exact deal, not known at all. Unlike, for instance, Geico, which is under the Berkshire Hathaway umbrella, which will give you some points of its own. Liberty Mutual is not going to give you anything unless you're going for insurtech. American Airlines, unless you're going for travel, doesn't do anything for you. Tyson Foods, same deal. If you're staying in packaged goods, yes, it gets you something. If you want to go beyond, not much. Performance, nothing at all. Unknown at all. And this is a company that is founded in 1885. So I know that I'm talking about like my very myopic world of tech product management, but that's what we're talking about, or only talking about product management in tech companies that where you can actually earn $1 million. You're not going to make $1 million working for your startups. I'm sorry, it's not going to happen. And you know how I know it's not going to happen? If you run the numbers, you actually send me the spreadsheet of what scenario, what has to happen with your startup so that you make $1 million a year for the next 2, 3, 4, 5 years. Please send me the spreadsheet. I have yet to see it play out like that. We have hundreds of product managers inside PCA, so we've seen the flip side of survival bias. We've seen all those startup PMs and ex-startup PMs that have done 2, 3, 4, 5 startups and have nothing to show for it. So again, I could be wrong. You could be one of the folks that starts a successful startup or joins one and actually ends up in the money, but it's not going to be close to this $1 million range. So the realistic way to make it into the $1 million range is to make it into the big tech companies. And yes, there's going to be a lot of other difficulties on the way, such as getting through the interviews, actually making it in those companies, and then continue to jump and grow your career. But step one is just building your resume with recognizable names. United Airlines, we talked about American Airlines. Those are interchangeable and completely meaningless, doesn't win anything for you unless you're going for travel groups. So Travelocity, Expedia, some of those companies, that could give you some points and in fact could get you the callback. But outside of those industries, you might get a little bit of credit in consumer tech. So you're starting to get a little bit, but again, it's mostly a legacy company. So does not get recruiters excited. HP, obviously a venerable company, a classic Hewlett-Packard, does not mean much anymore. It lives together with Dell's and a few other companies that are kind of relegated to getting a little bit of recognizability, but kind of irrelevant in the modern day tech landscape. Still, with $53 billion in revenue, it is actually pretty fascinating that they're a relatively minor player in terms of getting you a callback. However, I would rank HP higher than a lot of these other companies that we talked about, right? Next is Intel, and you would think that that would trump HP, but probably not, because they've kind of lost their way over the last decade or so and are definitely not as hot as they used to be. And for certain things, of course, hardware and chips and et cetera, of course, it's relevant. And you're going to be able to open a lot of doors in those arenas, undoubtedly. But in broad tech, it does not open any doors on its own. New York Life, another insurance company, pharmaceutical, another pharmaceutical, same thing. When you look at those insurance companies, those pharmaceutical companies, they're all about equivalent. If we meet a company that stands out, I'm going to let you know, but otherwise just assume that they are good for their sectors. You need to map them with experience, relevance, and impact. Continuing, another insurance company. Cisco is actually similar to the insurance and travel and fintech, where if it is around telecom, then it's going to get your foot in the door for sure. But if it's not, it does not win any points. Allstate Insurance, Publix, retail, absolutely nothing. Airlines, same exact as United Airlines and American, absolutely no difference whatsoever. Pfizer, pharmaceutical, same deal as the rest of the pharmaceuticals. Petroleum and any energy company, same deal as the rest of the energy companies. Merck, you get it. We can just keep going through these. StoneX doesn't do anything for you because it's not very well known inside tech. At least these companies, Merck, ConocoPhillips, Pfizer, the recruiter will have heard of them, so it gives you those few extra seconds to get their attention. But something like StoneX, basically not going to get any additional benefit of like, oh, now I'm going to scan the rest of this. So if you have something like a StoneX group that is pretty big, 60 billion, but not well known at all, you should lean on the impact and not the name itself. NVIDIA. This company is obviously the hottest thing since sliced bread. Pretty much 80% of the folks working for NVIDIA are millionaires at this point, just because of how much growth it's seen, because it rode a few very successful pivots and industry shifts, the latest one being AI. And NVIDIA actually does not open a lot of doors on its own. It's like, okay, you worked for NVIDIA. All we know about you is that you're extremely well paid and are probably going to make less when you switch from NVIDIA to somewhere else. So recruiters are not super excited about speaking with ex-NVIDIA folks. People are interested about jumping into NVIDIA, but from NVIDIA, there's not a lot that you get. There could be specific areas around like chips and the AI aspect of it, but a lot of the times when you're there, you're not necessarily working on those areas. So you are going to be higher than most of the companies in the list that we've reviewed, but not anything near like a Google or Facebook. John Deere, another agricultural manufacturing. I know the company, but you're not going to get any reaction from tech recruiters. Progressive, another insurance. There's a lot of insurance here. IBM, we skipped IBM. So IBM, I mean, what else is there to say about IBM? I mean, this is the grandfather of computing company. Unfortunately, nonetheless, it's mostly around like think consulting, so not a lot of actual tech being done necessarily. The technology and cloud computing here, huge number of employees, not a lot of credibility from a product management like sourcing farm. Another insurance we talked about, another healthcare. This one is not well known at all. MetLife, same deal as insurance. Caterpillar, this one is a better brand name. It's going to be like a Coca-Cola or Nike, but beyond that, again, its own sector. American Express, Financial, this one is below Capital One, even though they make more revenue and they're part of Berkshire Hathaway, I think. You still don't get we're kind of a tech-oriented, old world financial services company. You don't get that with American Express. Capital One is the only one that gets you a little bit of extra points there. Lockheed Martin, obviously defense, so some of the new Anduril, Palantir, and other scary-sounding names will recruit from Lockheed Martin and Boeing, and there they are right there. So other than that, you're not going to be able to necessarily carry it over to non-hardware, non-defense areas, but it's certainly very well in one of the big three for those industries. So it's going to be straightforward to get an open door in that industry, but not anywhere else. And this is kind of a recurring theme for us, right? Insurance will open the door in insurance, healthcare will open the door in healthcare. But what we're looking for is those companies that we can, first of all, get into from anywhere, and then we can jump into the next spot. So Capital One was one that we remarked was a good one for it. Then another one could be HP. Best Buy could also work. Cisco, perhaps. You could jump out of Cisco. The rest of these companies, NVIDIA maybe, IBM perhaps, because IBM could source outside of IBM and then you could get into other places. So even though on their own they don't seem very recognizable, they could actually be good sort of conduit companies where you jump into them in order to make it to the next one. It's interesting, actually, as I've been reviewing these, even though on their own they don't feel great and they don't feel very recognizable, they could actually be some of the better ones for making the jump. So we'll have to do a little bit of a meta-analysis on this a little bit later. For now, let's continue. We were at Boeing, Albertsons, obviously Safeway, and giant retail conglomerate, and Cisco, not that Cisco, the food service Cisco, also very well known, doesn't open any doors in tech, even though they certainly service all of the rest of the companies on this list. Albertsons, like the rest of the retail companies and the rest of the kind of legacy companies on this list, are definitely trying to modernize, and probably going to be similar to some of the, something like a, you know what, they're probably certainly above Tyson, much better known than Tyson, and they're going to be above pretty much the rest of these folks, all of the insurance ones. And the reason is, like, why is it that something like Albertsons actually is better than some of these health insurance or medical ones in order to get into the next role, is because there's a lot of B2B and business stuff, but primarily it's consumers. Like, at the end of the day, you're servicing consumers in retail, so that can translate a lot better. And the same can be said for Best Buy. Moving on, we got energy, Procter & Gamble, obviously conglomerate, consumer products, so you can lean on the consumer aspect of it. Position yourself as the right person for a particular set of roles in the consumer product space. Lowe's, retail, trying to modernize, but does not give you a lot of recognizability. Dell Technologies, kind of similar to IBM and HP, kind of legacy, does not win a lot of callbacks. So just like HP, you have to couple it with impact and relevant work, but then you can use it to kind of go across the board. It's another one of those that's actually pretty good for traveling, so to speak, for moving to your next role. Better than Lowe's, for instance, much better. Walt Disney Company is another good one for traveling, meaning the next step in your product career. Disney, there's a lot of areas to the business, obviously Disney Plus, the theme parks, but the entertainment company in general, there's a lot of things to do. It's very high revenue, it's very high growth, there's a ton of people. You can use it to jump through into your next opportunity. FedEx, absolutely nothing except logistics and operations, obviously very strong company, doesn't get you anything in big tech. UPS, same deal as FedEx, just a little bit less of a brand name, but it's interesting that their revenue is almost identical, and they both have a huge number of people working for them. Archer Daniels, food industry, I don't know about it. I've never seen it, which means that it probably doesn't really work as a feeder for big tech. Johnson & Johnson, another pharmaceutical and products. Morgan Stanley, again, just as the rest of those financial sectors. Now, finally, at number 40, we got Tesla. Tesla is a ticket to travel anywhere. Tesla is one of the companies that's going to get you a callback almost on its own, if not for its divisive leader, Mr. Musk. It would have been probably one of the biggest door openers out of the ones that are on this list in its entirety, much less the ones that we've seen so far. But because Musk is such a divisive character, you don't get the full credit of the Tesla brand, what they've been able to do, what they're trying to do, their mission, how they work, the speed. They're still one of the best. Trust me, because we work with a lot of these brands. We place candidates, we place PMs right into those jobs, and we know the type of work that happens when they start the job because we support them on the role itself. So I know the speed of onboarding, I know the work that they do, and it's probably one of the fastest ones in terms of execution, in terms of getting things done, in terms of organization, in terms of goals, aspirations. I am a big fan of Tesla, if you can't tell. Not as much of a fan of Musk these days, but still like him for the space stuff. In any case, Tesla is really the first really big one out of this whole list. It is nowhere near to the rest of these. It is head and shoulders above everybody else that we've reviewed so far, and it's going to get you callbacks across the board. State Farm, back to insurance, financials, not much. Humana, I don't know how to even say this, but obviously $100 billion in revenue. I have no idea what this company is. I'm sure it's going to open up the doors for you in insurance and in health. Outside of that, it will not mean anything to the tech recruiter. Target is interesting because Target is kind of getting into Walmart territory. So you're definitely going to get the name brand of Target plus the retail, the consumer side of it, which is a huge e-commerce business. So at $100 billion in revenue and nearly 500,000 people working for there, I would say Target is another great one that you can leverage to make your jumps. So get into Target if you can, if you can't get into these other companies, and then from Target, you can make the jump. Next, we get into Freddie Mac, which is, I'm pretty sure is a government agency, but we'll just leave that alone. Goldman Sachs, same deal. Olin Financial, Wells Fargo, same deal. Actually, I think they had the first online bank ever. And since then, they've kind of went downhill. They didn't really capture that whole prime spot. Obviously, they're doing well at 115 billion, at 150 billion in revenue. They're doing well, but outside of fintech, it doesn't give you anything. Comcast, obviously a big conglomerate at this point, but another good example, kind of like Target in a different space, you can use Comcast to jump around. You can use AT&T to jump around, and you can use Verizon. It's interesting that the three of them are right here back to back, 130, 120, 121, with nearly 500,000 between all of them, 500,000 people working between all of them. So you can use these both to jump to and to jump from. And right after that, we have our number 2 out of the 70 that we've reviewed so far. Meta is licensed to travel. If you got Meta on your resume, it is almost guaranteed callback. There are a few companies that are even stronger for your brand, but Meta, if you can get it on your resume, it's going to open up a ton of doors. I want to say pretty much 80%, 70, 80% of the opportunities you can open with that name, especially coupled with Impact and a few other strong names. Valero Energy, another energy company. Walgreens Boots, basically a conglomerate of retail and pharmaceutical. It is another one that has a lot of employees, a lot of opportunities to do things. It will not get you recognizable callbacks, but you can couple it with Impact. Fannie Mae, another government, quasi-government entity. Petroleum, retail, Kroger, same deal. Not on the level of Target. Target is a little bit of its own thing. Again, petroleum, Home Depot, similar to Lowe's, honestly, not a lot of movement from a recognizable perspective. Healthcare again, fintech, nothing. You don't get any credit for this. Another healthcare, same deal. General Motors, anybody in the automotive industry, we've got Ford right here in General Motors, you will get callbacks from some of the transportation companies, Uber or Waymo perhaps, or even Tesla. But basically outside of that, it's going to be very, very difficult. But you can use it, for instance, if you made your way into the automotive industry, these big legacy companies like Ford, General Motors, and I'm sure there's going to be, I'm not going to skip ahead too much, but if you made it in there, you can then try to jump from there into something, but you're going to be limited. You can get into some of the big tech companies, and we can mention them later when we get there, but it's still going to be fairly limited. Again, health insurance, again, petroleum, again, healthcare, not very well known. And now we get into Microsoft. And Microsoft, you would think, is one of the top ones because with the revenue that it has, 211 in revenue, it's a complete monster of a company. However, it is probably not going to open every single door. So Meta will open more doors for you than Microsoft. So you could think of it as like 60% with Microsoft, 80% with Meta, as an example. Definitely one of the top tech companies, very much in tech. However, not as much as some of the other companies that we will cover. So for instance, Tesla is going to get you more doors open than Microsoft. Meta is going to get you more doors open than Microsoft. Of course, for certain spaces, B2B especially, and corporate, you're going to get an additional boost from Microsoft that you might not get from the other companies. And in general, extremely strong. For all my Microsoft people, you're going to be fine. I'm just saying, when we're ranking these things, I want to tell you exactly how it is. Costco, probably, again, even though on the same level as Target and Walmart, does not get your foot in the door quite as often. So it would be Walmart, Target, Costco. We didn't even get to Walmart, but Walmart is on the highest ones of all of these. So Costco I would put quite low, even though it's 11 on this list. Another pharmacy, Sequoia, 0 recognizability. McKesson, 0 recognizability outside of health. Again, I'm sorry for all my 100,000 people that are working there, but that's the reality. Alphabet is obviously Google. Probably the number 1 on this list. Yes, because it does not have some of the other startups that I would put on your ultimate door opening list. and we can do another one. I think you can guess which companies are on this list. But anyway, Alphabet is going to be higher than Meta, and I would say it's going to open pretty much 90% of the opportunities for you, especially coupled with strong impact, because you could hit this like inverse effect where people think that because you're a Google, you didn't ship anything because they're a very slow company, which they definitely are. But most tech companies are slow outside of Tesla and Walmart and a few others. So you got to map it with impact and relevance. But in general, you should be able to get a callback irrespective. Like you just get the callback just from the company name. ExxonMobil, outside of energy, you don't get anything. Again, healthcare, same deal, just like Walgreens, not really. Berkshire Hathaway, obviously a gigantic company, one of the best and biggest for profit, not going to get you much in big tech. Geico is probably going to get you further than Berkshire Hathaway. Like Geico, we have used Geico in order to jump into some bigger tech companies. But Berkshire Hathaway on its own, outside of the companies that it operates, it is not going to get you much on its own. But the companies that it operates, such as Geico, Coldwell Banker, like some of those companies, you're going to be able to actually leverage those in order to get into bigger tech. It was not on this list because it didn't make the top 100, but there are a lot of other companies that you can use in order to catapult into the big tech companies. I just wanted to run through the top 100 because that's where we're going to have a lot of coverage by employees. So now we got more healthcare, obviously 500,000 people, not good for anything outside of healthcare. Apple pretty much opens all doors, especially anything that has to do with consumers. You're just going to get a callback. You're just going to get a callback just because you have the name. Amazon, not quite as strong as it used to be. Used to open up basically 100% of doors just like Google. Now a little bit less because it's a little bit bloated. I mean, 1.5 million people working for there. It's gigantic. You don't know what exactly you were working for in Amazon. It's so vast. And nowadays, because of how many people have worked there, it's starting to become a little bit second tier. So again, I don't want to upset my 1.5 million Amazon viewers here. You will still be able to get plenty of callbacks, but you should not skip out on the impact and the relevance and the contextual nature of the work that you did, because that, coupled with the name, is going to get you the callback most often. And finally, we have Walmart, which is going to get you callbacks, and it's a great place for an in-between. Like if you can jump for instance, if you can jump into Target and then into Walmart and then into the bigger tech companies, because now let's take a look. Out of these 100 top companies, where can you actually make $1 million as a PM? Walmart in management only, like high upper management. Amazon primarily in management and maybe some very, very senior IC roles. Apple, same deal, primarily in management and some upper IC roles. Alphabet, Google, you can definitely make $1 million. Going down, Microsoft, you can make $1 million, but it's a little bit harder. And what else? Meta. Meta is the big one, probably the easiest to get to $1 million there. Out of the rest of these companies, there are no other companies on this list except Tesla, and we missed it, where you can actually make $1 million, and NVIDIA, but NVIDIA is for a different reason. And also, if you go into it right now, I don't know that you would, but it certainly has, I think, the most millionaires by company because of the hyper growth that it's experienced. So on this list, there are not that many companies where you can actually make $1 million as a product manager. There's maybe 4 or 5 of them on this list. There are other companies that are not on this list where you can make $1 million. There's actually quite a few of them. I don't see Uber here. I don't see DoorDash here. I don't see Instacart here, and all of those companies, you can definitely make $1 million as an ICPM. This shows you a little bit about how we think about one of the most critical components in your quest to be a high-paid top tech product manager, and that is recognizability of your portfolio, your resume. And if you want help landing your next product management job, please use the link in the description to schedule a call with our team to see if we can partner up and help you get there a little bit faster. If you have any questions at all, you agree with me or you very much disagree with me, let me know in the comments. Thanks very much. I'll see you next time.